pain and suffering is just a tool from the universe, from the soul, to show us that we are not where we're supposed to go. We are not in alignment with our soul purpose. So we don't grow because we suffer. We suffer because we stop growing. Hi everyone, this is Kevlan, and in today's video I want to talk about our life purpose or our soul purpose. I want to share my perspective on what it is, as well as giving you some information on how to align yourself with your soul purpose. So just to start, perhaps I should say, to me, what is a soul, before I even start by talking about what is a soul purpose. To me, the soul is, and I've talked about that in previous videos. So we have the consciousness, we have the soul, and we have the body. Consciousness, our consciousness basically is just a fragment or fractals of universal consciousness. So if you think of the ocean as universal consciousness, then our consciousness will just be a drop of that same ocean. So we are the same in smaller quantity, or just a fractal of this big universal consciousness. Now, to individualize ourselves from other people, because if we take a drop of that same ocean and then just put it in different containers, we're just going to have the same water. So we're all going to be the same in smaller quantity. So to individualize ourselves from other people, then we have a soul. And the soul is basically the color you're going to put into the drop of water. So we're going to have one that is red, one is blue, one is green, one is yellow, and every drop of water that you see will be individualized with the soul, and the soul is basically the color. And then we have the body, which is basically the most obvious part of who we are, because that's the most that's the thing that we can actually measure and visualize and sense every single day. So now, before we decide to incarnate into life, it's not without purpose. We have a purpose when we incarnate, when we're born in this reality, on this plane. We have a purpose, we have a mission that we need to align ourselves with. And that mission is all about expansion. It doesn't matter what you have to do or how it's going to materialize, what type of experience you're going to live. At the end of the day, it's all about expansion and growth. The soul is here to grow. The soul is here to develop a better, bigger understanding about life and to go back to who we are, meaning that big ocean. So before we incarnate, and I like to, when we don't have a body, just imagine that the soul, which is you, before being in the body, have a computer in front of you, and the soul is kind of the script, is kind of the producer of the movie. The movie is basically the life you're going to have and what you're going to experience once you have a body. But before you have the movie, before you actually have actors and playing in the movie, there is a producer that is going to think of a script, or is going to think of a story. So the script of the story is determined by by the soul. The soul is basically the producer of your reality, of your life you want to experience. So before we incarnate, we have the soul that is actually thinking about the script or the story of what the soul wants to experience in the next lifetime. So just imagine the soul is having a computer, and in this computer, the soul can create a story that the soul wants to experience. But to experience the story, the soul has to incarnate into a body, to be in that story, to be in the movie. So that's what I call the soul purpose. The soul purpose is something that has been defined, determined by your soul before you incarnate. It's basically the script or the story of your life that the soul wants to experience once it incarnates into a body. Now, the problem is once we incarnate into a body, we go through this deep amnesia. We forget that we had a script. We forget that, the story has been already determined, and we're here to align ourselves so that we can actually experience it. So we have this deep amnesia, and at the same time, this body comes with a mind. And the mind is what gives us free will to decide whether or not we want to do this or want to experience that or follow a purpose or not. But before we actually incarnate, because of this problem, the fact that we forget and we have free will. Everything is organized into your life to push you towards that goal, to push you towards the script that has been determined. So I just imagine that your body is a boat. And so we have the boat, and then it's on the river, and you have the water current, you have the wind that is already determined to take you where you're supposed to go. So technically, we have to surrender and let go, and this just let the water, let that very subtle energy flow or subtle force that we have that pushing us towards what we are here to experience. So what the soul has determined that we want to experience. And because I said we have this deep amnesia and we have this free will, and the body is constantly in survival, the body wants to survive. The body is, so because the way we have been conditioned and the way we've been, all the traumas and the fears and all this kind of stuff, we always live in our lower centers, in the lower nature of who we are. So we always are in survival mode, and we want to survive in this environment, and as a result, we want to keep control of what's happening to our life. But the thing is, we have that force pushing us towards a direction that we don't know, but has already been determined by the soul. But because we don't know, it's unknown to us, we are afraid, and as a result, we're going to resist, and we want to be in control, and we're not going to control where we want to go, what we want to experience. But just imagine if there's a current, you're in the water, and there's a current pushing you towards something, and you're holding on the rock. What is going to give you? You're going to get tired. It's going to be painful to resist the current taking you to where you're supposed to go. So all this resistance is basically the fear, the traumas that we have in our lifetime, and that we're hanging on something, we're resisting it because it's scary, because it's the unknown, because we don't know where we're going. And we're afraid of that. So we are just, pushing against it or resisting it, hanging on something. And that's when we create suffering. That's when we create pain into our life. You see, pain and suffering is just a tool from the universe, from the soul, to show us that we are not where we're supposed to go. We are not in alignment with our soul purpose. So we don't grow because we suffer. We suffer because we stop growing. And that's really how I see it. Every time that something is not in alignment into my life, in alignment to where I'm supposed to be, there is always some issues with me, issues in my life, some challenges in my life. There is always some pain, some suffering in any sort that is showing me that, okay, you're not in alignment with where you're supposed to be at this very moment. So that's really how I see it, and that's why we have to follow, because we in amnesia and we don't know where we're going, but it has been predestined. And that's what we call destiny or fate. Is nothing else but what the soul has already scripted before we decided to incarnate. And this and our role is really to be in alignment with soul purpose and follow or surrender to the force pushing us to the unknown, obviously, but pushing us to where we're supposed to be. But the best way to do it is to follow our emotions. The emotions are the inner compass of the soul. So whatever we feel is going to give us an idea whether or not we are aligned with where we are supposed to be at this very moment. Joy, in the compass, we typically indicate the north, and then based on the direction, we say, okay, just indicate the north. Inner compass, joy indicates the soul purpose, indicates the alignment with what we are supposed to experience, with the script that we have in place. So the best way to really follow your soul purpose is to follow the joy, is to follow the happiness within. You see, happiness, I always say, is an inside job, and what makes you happy maybe is not going to make someone else happy, because again, happiness is determined based on the soul purpose or the alignment that you have with your script or your story that has been determined by your soul. And it will be something different for someone else. So whatever is going to bring you joy and happiness is going to be different. But that's the real purpose of life. It's to be in alignment with script. And that's how we live our best life. When we live our best life is when we are in alignment with the script and the stories that has been determined by the soul before incarnation. And every time we are going in another direction, every time we're not in alignment with it, it's just going to create, because of resistance, because of fear, because of whatever, it's just going to create some more suffering to show us that we're not aligned with where we're supposed to be at this very moment. So the best way to really follow your soul purpose, your soul mission, is to follow your heart, to follow this happiness within. You know, there is many people that go through this, like a disease, for example, and then they heal, and after that disease, they decide to change, to really align themselves with where they're supposed to be. The disease was just a catalyst so that a change could be made to align that, so that they could realign themselves with their soul purpose, their soul mission. You see, everything in nature plays as a purpose. Everything, whether it's human beings, obviously, or animals, insects, plants, trees, they all have a purpose. They all have a purpose in this big ecosystem, just to keep the balance of this big ecosystem. So a butterfly, for example, will have a purpose in the ecosystem. Now, if you take the butterfly and put it in your house in a different environment where he's not following his purpose, even if you're just gonna give the right food and everything, what do you think is going to happen? The butterfly is going to die because he's not following its purpose. We all come here to follow our purpose, to follow our journey that has been determined by the soul before incarnation. And as soon as we're not in alignment with that, at first it's going to create some challenges in our life, some pain, some suffering, perhaps some disease will be the next stage, and eventually death. Because we're not aligned, same as the butterfly or any other animals, when they're not aligned with a purpose or not aligned with what they're here for, then death will follow. It's the same for us. If we're not aligned for a very long period of time with what we're here for, death will follow. And that's why death in itself is not something that is written in stone, because again, we have this free will and we can decide to align ourselves with our soul purpose or not. And depending on that, we're just going to jump timelines between the best timeline that we have will be in the alignment with the soul purpose. And then from there, we'll have different timelines based on how far away we are from the alignment with the soul purpose. So that's what I wanted to share when it comes to soul purpose and soul mission. And really encourage everyone to follow your heart. Forget about their environment. Forget about what's happening into your life. Follow your heart. What would you like to do if everything was possible here and now? If money or whatever was not a problem, what would you like to do? What's a vision? And listen to the heart, because that vision will be given by your intuition, will be your soul purpose, will be what the soul has already determined that the soul wanted to experience in this lifetime. So that's how I will just, advise everyone to really have this intention and this vision of what's your vision, what will make you happy, and then do everything that you can to align yourself with that vision. Just remove all the resistance and all the fear that is surrounding this vision, so that you can have this force pushing you towards the vision. You don't need to know how you're gonna get there. All you need to know is, if it's your sole purpose, fear not, because everything will work in your favor. The whole world will work in your favor. The whole universe will conspire to make it work, because what you want wants you as well. If you want to know more about the science, about the soul, consciousness, the physical body, I invite you to check out my book on Amazon, The Science of Breaking Free. I'll leave the link down below in the description. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. Like the video, add a thumb up, because they always help with the algorithm. And for now, I'll see you in the next one.